here today to talk about life, love, music, taking care of ourselves,
Absolutely.
and sisterhood too. We'll touch on that a little bit too, because I think we're in a special time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're in a special time. And I think God is calling us to shake it up a little bit and not try to do it the way we've been doing it, you know?
Yeah.
That's what I think. I think. So I'm going to start off. Can you just say your names for everybody who listens and watches this?
My name is Laia, Laia Jones, Jones. And if, people want to find out more about who I am and what I do and all the things, they can go to LaiaJonesMusic.com. So
Yeah.
that's LaiaJonesMusic.com. So on my site, you'll see the music that I've done. You'll see the apparel company that I have. You'll see a lot of the events that I have coming up live
Oh,
because I do
tell
some,
us about that.
I
Uh,
do live performances with several bands and do a lot of background vocal work here in the Tennessee area. And so that's like the thing for me. I'm very creative. I've always been.
So,
Music has been my primary thing for, gosh, as long as I can remember. I've been singing in groups and choirs and background vocals and session work and all those different things for quite some time. I started singing in a choir, like in organized choirs, as early as maybe 6, 7 years old in church.
okay.
And, back then, um, I had a mom who was always in church.
Mm,
And if you were growing up in my house, you had to have something to do.
mm,
As far as church was concerned, you could not just go to church. You could
sit
not,
with you.
right. And my mother was very active in our home church. My mother was on the usher board.
What
My mother
denomination are you?
We grew up missionary Baptists at a
Okay.
little church in Memphis, Tennessee called Riverside Missionary Baptist Church.
Okay.
And she did the usher board. She was on the youth department committee. And then, people realized that I sang. And so back then you couldn't say no. There was no to an adult. Uh, and they would tell my mom, Sister Jones, we put Leia on program for XYZ event. And okay. And I'm like, I didn't ask to
I
be
didn't I didn't say yes to that.
right.
You
But
said yes.
there was no opportunity. You couldn't say no. It
Mm.
was what it was. If an adult told you that they put your name down for something, you had to do it.
Now, do you still sing mostly? Do you still sing regularly in the church or do you do your outside events mostly?
I do both.
You do
I
both.
sing at my home church here in Nashville. I
Mhm.
go to Capacity Church here. I also do several other churches around the Nashville area.
Okay.
So when other churches call and say, hey, we need a worship leader or we need somebody to come and help with praise and worship, I'll do that too. People call me a lot of times to do a lot of session work, background vocal work here in the area. I do that too.
Okay.
Um,
Can I ask you a favor, Sora?
what's that?
I've been listening to Change Me by Tamala Man. Can you just give me a bar? Do you know about
I
Change
don't,
Me?
I'm not really familiar with it.
Oh, girl.
All I know is to change me, oh God. That's all I really know.
That's
Uh,
good. That's
I
good.
don't know all the words. Da, da, da. I
That's
don't know all the, I just know that piece because I haven't really listened to it to really learn it like that. I've heard it in passing.
Well, we're going to talk about your breast cancer journey, but I think I want to
Yeah.
start with the music with you.
Ah, cool. Okay.
I think I want to start with the music if
You can
that's
do what you want to
okay.
do.
Do what I want to do because it's my creative space and I get
Yeah,
to
it
create
is.
what I want, don't I? I love
Yes.
that. I love that. Where did I see you come from? I'm now talking about your album. Give us the name of your album that you
The name of my project is Tape Decks and Diaries. Volume 2. It's the
Okay.
playlist edition of my project. There's Tape Decks and Diaries Volume 1, and
Hmm.
it's called The Layaway, but I See You, the track that I did called I See You, that track came from a pretty personal place. Uh,
Okay. See, and that's what we feel when you. That's that. See, that goes from the artist's heart when it's really this raw,
yeah,
emotion. That's what we fall in love with, I think,
I
because.
think dealing with being a musician, it's
Uh-huh.
a pretty male dominant world. And so I cross paths with a lot of different men. And I don't know what it is about the guys that I am connected to. They often speak to me about some of the most personal issues.
Okay.
And I guess it's because I try my best to allow them to live in the space of humanity outside of what they do.
Mm-hmm.
I give them the opportunity to be who they are and just be with me. Um, and I have a friend that he will call me every single day. And I think outside of him doing all of the things that he does, because he's a leader in so many different lanes, I allow him to strip down and just be himself. And eventually, we were having a conversation one day, and he revealed to me how necessary it is for him to have a me. Because he said, I don't get the chance to just be and breathe and just be me in
Oh,
front of very
wow.
many people.
What a
And
blessing.
so for you to sit and talk to me, and
Mm,
there's a judge free zone,
mm,
and allow me to vent or cry or tell you my deepest, darkest fears and concerns, and you just listen, that means the world to me.
yes.
And I told him, I am glad that you feel safe enough with me to share those things,
That's a blessing.
because it's not every day that we have men who want to share,
Mm,
because the world has beaten them down, especially men of color, black men,
right.
has beaten them down so much. And they tend to equate silence with strength.
Mm.
And so,
Can you sing just a little bit of it? Give us some lyrics of it. Because I found, and I wanted to ask you about your process because I found the lyrics just so
oh, well, I
lyrical.
hear you. It's basically discussing how I can see the different bumps and bruises that men walk through life and they wear.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody knows how to really be a balm for them
Mm-hmm.
and give them a safe space to heal. And
Mm-hmm.
I was just saying in that piece, I see you. I understand why you mask different pains
Mm-hmm.
behind something to smoke or something to drink or someone to lie with, because you just don't have the words to say,
Mm-hmm.
this thing in life hurts, but I understand and I see you.
Mm-hmm.
And in order for men to be vulnerable, they have to feel seen. And I think with every one of my
Or
male
you
friends,
might help me with my marriage. You helping me with my marriage, so I like
well,
that. In order for them to feel vulnerable, they have to feel like they're being seen.
yeah, I think, no, and I
That's
think there's people in general,
yes,
but especially
yes,
men, if
yes.
they, and I've seen this with several men, if they feel like you have um taken advantage of that vulnerable space, or maybe you're not attentive to what they have to say, or you discard it, or um I remember having a female friend who was saying, "Oh, he acts like a girl." I was like, "No, he's human. Let
Mm-hmm.
him be human."
Let them be human. Yeah.
Men want to be human and they have emotions too.
Oh, you need to be a
And
psychologist.
nah,
That's good. That's so good. But I
but
think about the small little things, like my husband, when he comes home, the dogs will run to the door, right? And then I'll come and go. The dogs got here first. It's almost like he wants to be seen as soon as he
right.
walks in the door.
They want to be
They
necessary
want to
in
be
your
seen.
world.
They want to
Yeah,
be seen.
they
He
want to
wants
be
me to put the
necessary.
phone down when I hear that
Yeah,
in the thing and go straight to the door. Put the phone
I
down.
think our actions show how much they matter to us,
Yes.
whether it's a hug
Yes.
or a listening ear
Yes.
or sometimes just being there.
Just sitting.
Um, just
Just
sit,
sitting.
just sitting.
Yes.
Because a lot of times, with my male friends, I don't really offer advice unless they ask.
Mm,
I ask more questions and allow them to answer the questions instead of me saying, I think you should do this, or maybe you need to do that, or you need to do it this way.
right.
No.
No.
How do you feel about, what do you think about,
So,
do you ever wonder if this could work or that could work? Because they still want to feel like men.
right. Tell me about your creative process. Now, when do you know I see you is something that you got to record? When does it come
Oh my
to you
gosh,
that,
I did that. That was a same day kind of thing. The process really varies. Some days I can wake up and I hear a melody
and you just,
and I'll just write something. And my producers, I'll share with my producers and go, what do you think? And
mm-hmm,
they'll wrap some music around it. Other times they'll send me music and then I'll go, this makes me feel like ABC. And
mm-hmm,
I'll write something to it and go, hey, tell me what you think.
mm-hmm,
It really depends.
mm-hmm,
Um, Sometimes I'll just write and see
mm-hmm.
what happens because it's like exercise. The more you do it, the stronger you become.
Yes,
If you don't do it enough, you become really rusty.
yes,
And that's one of my biggest fears, that I become so rusty and out of touch with what I'm feeling, that I'm unable to convey the messages that I want to convey to the world around me. And
mm,
so sometimes I'll just pick up pen and pad and just write how I feel that day. Even if it's one line. I had a vocal coach that told me years ago, he said, you can always draw from something, but you
mm.
can't get anything from nothing.
That's right. That's right. Well,
So find something to write
mm,
about.
mm,
Find some kind of way to draw from whatever you're feeling within a moment
right,
and create something from it.
right. Yes. Well, it's interesting because, like the piece I shared with you today, I went to that healing circle that I mentioned,
Hmm.
like I'm gonna say 2 weeks ago. And I knew immediately that this was a space that a feeling that I had never experienced in a really long time. And I knew that it was impacting my heart and that I was gonna
Hmm.
have to write about it. I didn't know when. And I didn't get stressed about like, oh, okay, I got to write this piece. I better sit down and think about it. Da, 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 da. And then yesterday, it just boom.
You allowed yourself to feel through it. And
Yes,
that's how a lot of musicians do
boom.
too. We
It,
just allow ourselves to feel through whatever we are
yeah,
going through emotionally at the time.
yeah.
And it creates some of the greatest art. I can draw from other people's experiences. Like, I see you. I mean, I think it's my experience too, because I was listening to a friend of mine just really work through some issues that he had.
Mm,
But it was his experience mainly because he was telling me about his story and what I wanted to tell him. was, I see you. I see you.
Yes.
And the best way for me to say it and to document that moment was to record it. And
Mm.
I've had another male friend come back and say to me, I needed this today.
Oh, wow. That's
Like
special.
last week, somebody text messaged me and he sent me a screenshot of him listening to I See You.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, that's why I wrote it. I wrote it for a you. And I'm grateful to God for moments like that.
Yes.
That's always like whether I reach one or 1,001.
And that's
Um,
the whole point
yeah,
creating.
that's why I do it.
You just want to reach people. And
Right.
I know I got like three or four, 3 or 4 or 5 messages, text messages back. I got 2 phone calls. I was like, that thing must be hitting people.
It is. That's a great article,
And
and I
that's a
read it
good thing
today.
when it hits people. That means
Hmm.
I was able to transfer that feeling that I
Hmm.
experienced 2 weeks ago. Um,
And it's your way of saying, I love y'all.
oh, don't make me cry.
But that's what I try to create when I create my music, a way to say I love you a
Yeah,
billion times over.
that's a
Because
song right there. That's a song and an article. That's a whole book.
yeah,
The way I say I love you. Because I was joking about money, like, God, could you pour a little more money in my, but literally, I knew when I was called that it was my way. He was calling me to say, I love you to people,
hmm.
creatively, and that I
Hmm.
could not be concerned with traditional means of, you know, pay and compensation. That I was just supposed to step in a space where, with the written word, I say, I love you.
Hmm. And sometimes that is the
That's
greatest
why it hit me when I said
compensation.
that. I was like, oh God, but she know that.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's it. That's it. And it's unfortunate too because the world sometimes wants to put you in a category in a box and say you got to do this, you got to do that in order to, be acceptable. And we really just have to let people share their gifts the way God has called them to share their gifts, you know?
Hmm.
My way of saying I love you is not going to be to show up and be in committees and do a lot of different other things.
Yeah.
My way is going to allow something to really touch my heart and be able to sit with it long enough that I can give it back to you that moment and hopefully it'll touch yours.
Hmm.
So,
Hmm.
oh, I love creating. So now what about the song Before I See You, which is Private Parts?
Yeah, let me touch your heart. Private part.
Let me touch your
I
heart, Private Parts. I like that one too.
One of my favorite spaces to write is in the car.
Mm,
I spend a lot of time driving,
right.
and I started working on this song a few years ago. And it took shape finally this year.
Hmm.
Um, but I wrote it after just dealing with the woes of dating, the ups and downs of dating.
Mm,
And as dating has evolved, it seems to be it's so superficial to me.
mm,
Um, People don't want people for people. It seems to be all about some form of self gratification and not, like I said, loving people for who they are. I
sharing
talked to
your
another
heart.
guy friend about this. We see so many people trying to figure out what you have. And
Mm,
I was like, all I want to do is just
right. Yeah.
touch the most intimate space of you. That's
Right.
the most pri We give everything but that. Like,
Yes.
it's crazy that we have people that are willing to give of themselves physically,
Right.
but don't want to give of themselves emotionally.
Yeah.
It's all kinds of apps. created for people to connect with people physically, whether I'm just going out with you for a cup of coffee or any other form of what we call a date,
Mm-hmm.
or if I'm just meeting up with you to do something else.
Mm-hmm.
It's never saying, "Hey, I want to meet up with someone who wants to know the innermost part of me and
Share
know
you.
how to treat it well."
Right,
Yeah.
right, right. I I wonder though, is it because we've gotten out of practice of just holding physical space with each other?
I think that's a part of it.
I think people and sometimes when I'm around younger people, I think they don't know how to hold physical space. They don't know how to hold eye contact. They don't know how to begin to because when you're in the physical space with someone, you begin to like read the signs of their body
Hmm.
movements and
Hmm.
how they're feeling and what they're,
Hmm.
you know what I mean? It's almost like you can read
Hmm.
the person.
I
Um,
think technology has been a blessing in
robbed
the
us
first,
of that.
yeah, in those areas. We don't value the, the we don't value the value of time.
Yes.
Time is such a
Mm,
precious jewel. And I think if nothing else, being a part of the whole COVID-19 craze that we had between 2020 and 2021, where
mm,
we couldn't connect with anybody, we
mhm.
learned how much people really matter.
Right.
And it's moments like those that taught us, hey, we were made for each other.
Yes.
We
Yes.
were made beyond just um a fly by night moment. You
Mm,
gotta be able to sit in some spaces with people and just take a moment. Not think about
you
the
do.
time, not think about where you have to go.
What you
Just take
got to
a
do.
moment.
Yes.
You know, we had so many people talking about how they hadn't seen family members. And I'm like, but a lot of these people didn't go see family members beforehand.
Mm,
People were dying and oh
mm-hmm.
uh, man, 2020 is this, then
Mm-hmm.
no, you should have gone and spent time with
Mm-hmm.
those people prior to,
Right.
so that
Right.
when they left, you could have said, I spent all the time I could with them.
Yeah.
And now
Yes.
that they are gone, I have a peace because I was able to just sit and be.
Yes.
I think we've robbed ourselves with that through clicking buttons all the time and text messaging. Everything is instantly gratifying now. And so we treat people like that.
That's true.
We
Yeah.
don't want to talk on the phone anymore. We want to text.
Yes. Yes.
We don't want to wait on a meal to be made. We want a DoorDash.
And the whole texting is so that it minimizes your time that you have to
There you
interact
go.
with that person.
And it
If you pick
also,
up the phone, they're not gonna give you a one line response. They're gonna give you
yeah,
several lines and they're gonna
yeah.
pause and they may change subjects in the middle. And you gotta be able to sit with that. And we don't want to sit with that anymore.
I think
Uh,
it also emotionally disconnects.
it does, because this is the other thing that I realized. Early in the year, I kept thinking, boy, you're not crying. You don't cry anymore. I just was dry. I would get notices of folks dying and be like, oh, I'm so sad they died. But I wouldn't drop a tear. And
Mm.
it just felt weird for me. And December, my grandbabies were born, and I said, okay, I'm gonna give myself a year. I'm gonna say yes anytime they want me. Yes, 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 yes. And I'm gonna sit on the floor with them, and I'm gonna let them play all over me, and I'm just gonna rock them, and my whole life is gonna be about them. Anything else will be secondary. And sure enough, here we are a year later, and now I'm back to the tender-hearted little girl that used to cry at the drop of a dime.
Mm.
Because being with them has just softened me, you know? I
Yeah.
think that's what it is. And so
And
now, girl, we cried this weekend twice. One,
You
both
took
times.
time, you took time to watch them evolve.
Yes,
You've been there from the start of it all, which
yes.
makes you appreciate the value of time.
The value of time, just the value of time. That's no better way to say it. And there's nothing that can replace that.
Right,
There's
right,
there's no replacement for the value of time, of just
right,
being there.
right.
Um, and that allows you to feel. I think when we don't give ourselves that time, we stop feeling. We become like
Mm-hmm.
robots. We're
Mm-hmm.
robotic, and that's why
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting, death notices after death notices, like, oh, so and so died. Oh, I'm so sad. Boop, boop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We're just not feeling, and we got to get back to feeling. I think,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's the main thing. We got to just slow it down a little bit, get back to feeling um, people for people
Yeah.
and just wanting to be in their space, you know. I
Yeah.
I, I did a piece and I read from this book, Black Liturgies, and the title of the piece that she had written is Dignity, you know, that our dignity and our value of who we are as human beings is inherent. It has nothing to do with what job we have, what we're doing, what degree we have. Just breathing. That's enough. God gave you breath. That means you are doggone special. Okay? And maybe I should spend some time with you.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just that simple. But we've gotten to this, hierarchy of importance and who is, more worthy of a response than someone else. And it's just like we gotta we gotta get back to the basics. So so tell me again where you say, let me touch your heart. In the car, you're
I
talking
did.
and you're
Um,
thinking about a date or how your dating life has been.
I was thinking about the fact that people always want the the physical parts of you, but
Mm-hmm.
never the emotional piece,
Mm-hmm.
because that's a piece that you have to take time to
Mm-hmm.
invest in.
Mm-hmm.
And my thing has always been, if you don't want this part of me, then
Yeah.
you don't want any of me.
Yeah.
Um, it's a package deal,
Yeah.
and it takes time to get here. So it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
take time to get here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I spent a lot of time. I still spend a lot of time driving, but especially when I was living in California.
Mm-hmm.
Before moving back here to Tennessee, I lived in California for, man, over a decade.
Mm-hmm.
And
Do you miss California or are you
sometimes
happy where you are now?
I do miss certain pieces and parts of California. I do.
You do.
Um, I made a lot of great friends and learned a lot in California. So yeah, sometimes I do miss it. But yeah, I wrote that song on my way to work. I'm notorious for having a phone mounted
Mm-hmm.
to either my windshield or like a vent, and I can just hit the record button and things were just coming to mind because I had become so frustrated with dating and how people always want to figure out how they can sleep with you. But
Mm-hmm.
nobody wants to figure out what your last name is or your favorite color
They going
or,
straight for the
yeah, like what are
cookie.
my hopes and dreams and where I'm from, or if I even like people at all.
Yeah,
Like, do I mesh with the world that you're trying to create
right,
for yourself?
right.
Before we get started with anything physical, who
Yeah.
am I character wise? Am I honest? Do I have integrity? Do I steal? You know?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So all of those things played a part in the construction of that song.
Oh.
Because I'm saying I want to connect all the dots, primitive places. They're not. Let me see who you really are.
Mm.
And be unafraid to show your scars. Let me enter your secret places where
Mm.
no one's gone, let me in. And that goes back to kind of
That
what
goes
I
to,
was
you
saying
know,
about I see
Quincy
you,
Quincy Jones has the secret place. Do you know that
Secret
song?
Garden.
Secret Garden. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it just made me think about like all those moments where um I would date somebody and I'm like, it's not it because
Mm,
he does not want to know who I am. And so I would move on. And
mm,
I was like, I really just want that one somebody
mm,
that gets me
mm,
because they understand me from the inside out.
mm.
Um, and I was like, there's such a private space though, which is why I came up with private part.
Okay.
Um, and I mean, usually when you hear private part, you're thinking something way more taboo, but I'm talking about the heart.